Good morning.
Good morning.
So, today's reading starts off as part of Matthew 9 and then it skips into Matthew 10. And in my Bible is a subtitle called, in the first part here, called "The Workers Are Few." So it starts off this way. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." So then the next section moves into 10 parts of Jesus sends out the 12. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First it was Simon, who was called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James the son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip, and then, of course, Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: "Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give." Word of God for everyone.
Thanks be to God.
Now may the words of my lips, the meditations of all of our hearts, be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, you who are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Father's Day perhaps brings many memories back to you, as they do to me, about my dad. And one of them I was thinking about this morning was maybe partly because I was anticipating going down to Fenway Park against my will on Friday night. But, you know, you got to do some things in the ministry. And my dad used to, after a long day's work out in the hayfield with my brothers and myself, my dad would, after taking care of the cows, we'd go out on one of the fields, which were flat by our house, a hayfield, and he'd get out his fungo bat, a baseball bat that's narrow that you could hit fly balls. And he would hit fly ball after fly ball to my brothers and myself. Usually we took turns, but occasionally a couple of us would head for the ball at the same time, and one of my foolish brothers would run into me. But they were older, so it was my fault. And but memories, and I'm sure you have your memories of different times. They did a national center, there's a National Center for Fathering that conducts the Father of the Year essay in partnership with local schools and sponsored organizations in some parts of the country. Over 100,000 school children submitted essays a number of years ago. What my father means to me. Here's a sampling. A first grader writes, "My dad is the best dad ever. I would kiss a pig for him." Another first grader writes, "My dad is a Frito-Lay man. This is an important job because Frito-Lay means chips, which is food. This is so important because you could not live without food." A third grader writes, "The dad in my life isn't really my dad. He's my grandpa. But he's been a dad for me ever since I was born. I hope that as I get older, Grandpa will teach me all the stuff he knows about wood and first aid and everything else he knows about. My grandpa isn't my father, but I wouldn't trade him for all the dads in the world. A fourth grader writes, sometimes as a joke, I'll put my stinky socks in his briefcase. So at work the next day, he will think of me. He's always at the concerts and plays that I'm in, even though he lives about an hour away. A fifth grade girl writes, you know what else my dad does? He braids my hair. I'm the only girl I know whose dad braids her hair. I think that's a perfect dad. He already is the world's greatest dad to me. I just wanted everyone to know that. And a sixth grader writes, one time I had an assembly and I was a soloist. And my dad was in the first row. And after my song, I smiled at my dad. And my dad smiled back and started crying. That was the best thing I ever saw. So the news about dads isn't necessarily all bad. And, you know, when it comes to giving dads presents, most dads have all they need anyway. Family Circus has a thing it's posted there on the door that about hugs and the gift that hugs and what a difference hugs mean. But Jesus, in his words to his disciples, the harvest is needed. He sends people out with authority to cast out demons and do different things. And then there's the striking line in here, freely you have received, freely give. And I think about that when I think about fathers, and I think about families, and when I think about purposeful living. Freely I have received. And then freely give, Jesus says. A visitor from a third world country made this comment about coming to our country the first time. As he was riding through a subdivision, he noticed a car backing out of the garage. And he said with amazement, "You even have houses for your cars?" Think of that. Some of us have 3 houses for our cars. Or 2. Reminds me of something the humorist Will Rogers once said in the midst of the Great Depression. He had seen grinding poverty in other parts of the world, and he said of America, "We'll hold the distinction of being the only nation that ever went to the poorhouse in an automobile." A recovering alcoholic went on a mission trip to Honduras once. And she had gone through a divorce with her husband, and she had lost her 4-bedroom house in the divorce proceedings. And she writes this. She said, "I've always felt poor since I lost my big 4-bedroom house. And then I came to Honduras and saw how victims of the hurricane, which she had gone down to help people deal with, were thrilled to have these 2-room shacks, small houses, 2-room houses that we built for them. She said, I came back to my 600 square foot condominium and saw that I live in a palace compared to them. I am rich and I never knew it until I went to Honduras." Jesus says, freely you have received and freely given. I think he's not talking necessarily about wealth there, but he's talking about his grace. freely we have received and freely give. To be able to share that in different ways and to be, to let others bless us when need be, you know. Sometimes that's the greatest blessing that we can give someone is to receive their gift, whatever that is, as well as to give a gift. Tony Robbins, who's a motivational speaker, tells about a 10-year-old boy at Thanksgiving time who was in a home that was experiencing tremendous financial hardship. You frequently heard his mom and dad break out in argument with one another and found this really difficult, and he knew was not looking forward to this Thanksgiving. He said this boy woke up with a sense of foreboding, and his family was too proud to ask for charity. This led to frustration and harsh words, and each hour of the day, his spirits continued to go down. Then suddenly, he said, there was a loud and totally unexpected knock on the door, and standing there was a tall man in rumpled clothing, grinning broadly, and carrying a huge basket. And in that basket, there was a pie, there was a turkey, there were peas, and sweet potatoes, canned goods. It was heaped up, he said. The man at the door said, this is from someone who knows you're in need and wants you to know that you're loved and cared for. And the father in the family responded, no, I don't want it. I'm not going to take it. We don't need it. And the man holding the basket said, I'm just a delivery person. Have a great Thanksgiving. In that brief encounter, said Tony Robbins, this young man's life was changed. The kindness of the stranger would never be forgotten. The young man vowed that someday he would repay that. When he was about 19, when Thanksgiving rolled around, that boy took his own money and bought Thanksgiving dinners for two families that were in tough times. One was a Latino woman with 6 children. Her husband had abandoned the family a few days before. They had no food. This young man, 19 years old, gets out of his car and started bringing in the turkey, stuffing, and all the rest that he bought for the family. And the children shrieked, and the woman started explaining, you a gift from God, you a gift. And that's what we are to people. We're God's gift to the world. Somebody had on a coffee cup once, God danced the day you were born. You are loved. You are beautiful. You are a gift of God, His own possession. You are a gift to all humankind, God's gift of love to them. This person who has that coffee cup said he paid more for a coffee cup than he'd ever paid for before, but he'd seen it on the shelf, and he just loved the message, and he put it up on his desk to remind himself that he was a gift to other people. Jesus said, freely you have received, freely give. Our dads were gifts to us. Probably none of us here had a perfect dad. My dad wasn't perfect. wasn't afraid to say it. And I loved to hug him right up to the moment. When I said goodbye to him the last time, when I left him in his hospital bed, where he had been paralyzed in his late 70s from falling off a ladder. We are gifts to one another. Cal Ripken was a great player for the Baltimore Orioles. He played in more games consecutively than anybody else in baseball history. Broke a record of Lou Gehrig, who was known as the Iron Man. Nobody ever thought that would be broken. Over 2,000 some odd games. And he played. And while he was playing, during his years in the late 80s, his dad, who had been a scout and had been a coach and different things, became the manager of the Baltimore Orioles. And his brother Billy played on the same team. It was the only time in history that somebody had managed two of his own sons in a game, or in a season. And then in about 1975 or 76, Cal Ripken was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he, in 96, I said, 1996. And he was asked to say a few words about his father. It was an emotional moment, and the young man struggled to find just the right words. And finally, he decided to tell a story about his own two children. Rachel, who was 6 years old, and her little brother, Ryan, who was 3. They had been bickering for weeks. And one day, Ripken heard Rachel taunt Ryan. She said, "You're just trying to be like Daddy." You ever have siblings, or for one, likes to boss the other? Well, this 3-year-old obviously was trying to boss her brother, or her sister, his sister. And after a few moments, Cal asked Rachel, "What's wrong with trying to be like Dad?" And when he had finished telling the story, Cal looked at his father and said, "That's what I've always tried to do. To be like Dad." And that is what Jesus Christ expects us to be like. Our Heavenly Dad. Our Heavenly Father. The one Jesus called Abba. To be like Him. Who gave Himself so completely for the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Freely you have received. Freely give. Jesus challenges us. May we share that.